Hello everyone. In this video I'll be sharing my thoughts on this week's episode of The Walking Dead, The Big Scary You. As always with these videos there will be spoilers for the entire episode, so I suggest you watch the latest entry of the show first before watching. As you have probably already noticed, I do have a cold at the moment, so I apologise if I sound a bit muffled throughout this review. Anyway, let's not waste any more time and get straight into it. Although I had a bit of a love-hate relationship with Negan throughout most of Season 7, I honestly feel as though at times JDM's serial Lena was almost carrying the show single-handedly as it plodded along through a batch of 16 episodes, varying greatly in quality from one week to the next. For me, he was probably one of the standout characters in a season that I wouldn't rank much higher than the one preceding it. Cue my surprise then when rumours started to swirl on corners of the internet, suggesting that Negan's role would be greatly reduced for much of the first half of this season. The man who has been the show's trump card for the last 2 years wouldn't really feature in a story arc centred on a war between him and Rick. I mean, surely if there was a time to turn the focus on Negan, it's now. However, after being treated to 4 exciting episodes since The Walking Dead's return, I can't really say that I've missed him. In fact, I'd argue that the show seemed to be doing a lot better without having him on screen. So this raises the question, does having Negan return to the fold ruin the show's hot run of form which it's enjoyed of late? Well, simply put, the answer is an unequivocal no. If anything, I believe having him appear less frequently has actually made his appearance this time around more impactful and interesting, and this was probably one of JDM's best performances as the leather jacket wearing leader of the Sanctuary. The Big Scary You's focus is clearly on making the viewer question their preconceptions that they have regarding Negan's leadership. We all know Negan as a man to be feared, someone who rules his people by oppression, someone who won't hesitate in burning half a person's face off if they disagree with him, someone who forces people to work in a factory just so they can gain some points which will allow them to buy some food and water so they and their families don't starve. However, by the end of this installment, I believe that many people will find themselves thinking that maybe, just maybe, he isn't so bad after all. Let's take the opening sequence at the Saviour's HQ as an example. Taking place just before and then after Rick's attack on the Sanctuary during the season opener, the initial sequence focuses on various high-ranking members of the Sanctuary discussing what to do in the aftermath of Rick and the Hilltop defending Alexandria at the end of Season 7. Simon suggests that they use Gregory to convince the people of Hilltop to side with Negan, and if they refuse, well, they'll just kill them all. This idea completely infuriates Negan. He goes on to state that people are a resource, people are valuable. Killing the entire Hilltop community would serve him no purpose and would in fact weaken his entire operation. Now, I'm not saying that Negan is suddenly a saint just because he disagrees with Simon's way of thinking, but you get a sense throughout this week's episode that perhaps if Negan wasn't the one in charge, and instead it was one of the other saviours sitting at the table, things may be a lot worse. Not just for the people of the Sanctuary, but also for the people of the other communities. This idea is further illustrated during a later scene which takes place in the same saviour boardroom when Negan is still stuck in the trailer with Gabe. Regina and Simon both come up with an idea of using workers to clear a path through the herd, fully knowing that they will probably all die, and in fact saying that they could use their death as a distraction. As much as Negan is a dick, I honestly don't think for 1 minute that he would think about sacrificing his own people just so he could escape, which again shows that for all his flaws, he does care about those who reside at the Sanctuary. Negan shares some further light on his methods and beliefs during his extended stay with Gabriel, which although I believe for the most part manages to hit the mark, it does also manage to misfire ever so slightly. I'll start with the good points first, with the key point being that I think the entire scene does a fairly decent job of humanising Negan. Viewers don't necessarily have to agree with his reasoning behind the way he runs things down at the factory, but it's nice to see that in his mind he genuinely believes he's doing the right thing, and for the most part does so with good intentions. We also got to learn about his real wife Lucille, as he bared all and confessed to Gabriel, with this being probably the most emotional I've ever seen him. I also think the fact that Negan allowed Gabriel to live shows that, as Negan puts it, he can actually be quite reasonable. I mean, think about it for a moment. Negan was stuck in a trailer with a guy who had just attacked his camp, his home. Yet his first instinct wasn't to kill him, instead he disarmed him so as to protect himself and then lifted him up from the floor. Would Rick have done the same if he was alone with someone who attacked Alexandria? I highly doubt it. Furthermore, Gabriel went on to grab a gun from Negan's back pocket and attempted to shoot him. Of course, as expected, he missed, but did Negan proceed to bash his brains in? No. Instead, he spoke to him and convinced him to work with him so they could both survive. Again, think about what would happen if Rick was in this situation. I am almost certain that if he were in a room with someone who attempted to shoot him, the other person wouldn't have been alive for very long after their misplaced bullet left the chamber. It could be argued that perhaps Negan was just using his brain and knew that the pair of them had a better chance of making it out alive if they went out into the herd together, which is why he didn't kill Gabriel. But that doesn't explain why he saved him when traversing the swarm of the undead. At one point, Gabriel appeared to be getting grabbed by walkers. That was until Negan dragged him towards him, pushing him to safety. Negan could have just as easily left him to die and used his death as a distraction to make it to safety, but he didn't. I know he probably has an ulterior motive up his sleeve and is planning to use Gabe against Rick in some way in the future, but the point still stands that he could have killed him plenty of times but chose not to, and that has to count for something. I also like the fact that whilst him and Gabriel were getting comfy in the trailer, the show referenced Negan's past job as a school teacher. I've mentioned previously that I think it's a bit dumb that Negan is so insistent on taking people who are his enemies and trying to get them to join his cause. But hearing Negan talk about moulding children made me kind of realise why he does this. Negan's job pre-apocalypse was to shape children in order to point them on the right path. I'm sure he took a lot of satisfaction in doing this, and it must have also been a bit of an ego boost when he managed to make a naughty, petulant kid finally fall in line. I feel that this carries over to how Negan deals with those who oppose him. In a sense, it seems that he relishes the challenge of making someone who despises him change their ways, and perhaps convincing an enemy to join the Saviours is just as satisfying to Negan as helping a troubled child become a straight-A student. This, combined with his strong belief in the value of people as a resource, helps me finally understand why he is so intent on giving those who rise up against him a chance to commit to his cause. I did say earlier that although I believe that even though this sequence does a great job of humanising Negan, it does also miss the mark in places, and I say this because there's just some dialogue that comes out of Negan's mouth that is just plain contradictory and just not true. For instance, at one point he tries to convince Gabriel that he only kills people who deserve it and only does so if necessary. As much as I still hate the fact that he brutally killed Glenn and Abe, I suppose you could make the argument that killing two men is a small act when compared to Rick killing an entire hideout of men as they slept. But this argument simply doesn't work for every occasion he's killed someone or has had someone killed. I remember last season when Rosita attempted to shoot Negan. This led him to ordering one of his followers to kill someone at random. This resulted in Olivia being shot and killed. Did she deserve to die? No, not at all. How about the fact that the leader of Oceanside mentions how Negan lined up all the men in the community over 10 years old and killed them all? Was this necessary? No, it wasn't. I get what the show is going for in trying to show a different side to Negan, but when you take into account all the things we've seen him do as well as the stories we've heard, it's really hard to sympathise with him. In a sense, although the episode succeeds in showing another side to him, at times it still manages to fall flat on its face. Finally, whilst I'm on the subject of Negan, I felt that seeing the chaos unfold without him inside the sanctuary, which featured the workers all rushing upstairs and the saviour henchmen not really knowing what to do, showed that the people there do really need him. There's no clear leader to be found amongst the rest of them, and although he might not treat his people wonderfully, they do seem to be lost sheep without him. Even if this instalment didn't cause you to change your opinion regarding Negan, I think it may have caused some people to rethink their perception on Dwight. I feel that throughout this episode, Dwight was the voice of reason who stood up to the gung-ho saviours who surrounded him. Although I just mentioned there being no clear leader amongst the rest of the saviours, Dwight did show some glimpses of potential leadership quality when addressing his fellow officers as well as the workers of the sanctuary. It will be interesting to see if he is being lined up to take Negan's place once the war ends. Lastly, I want to quickly talk about Rick and Daryl, who came to blows this week. And by come to blows, I mean Daryl punched Rick and then easily subdued him. There has been friction growing between the duo during the last few weeks, so it was nice to see this boil over and actually come to something. Daryl was intent on taking the explosives found in the truck and blowing a hole in the sanctuary, leading the herd inside, allowing them to win the war. Rick, however, argued that this would kill innocents and wasn't the right thing to do. I'm sure most viewers will have differing opinions as to what is the right course of action to take. Personally, I'm siding with Rick. I feel it's not fair to kill non-combatants, and agree that it could cause even more people to want to fight for Negan. I also think that if it was Negan in this situation and he blew up a part of Alexandria, leading a herd inside which killed innocent bystanders, all the Walking Dead fans would absolutely hate him. so I think it's a bit hypocritical to side with Daryl. Anyway, that's just my opinion. I'm sure lots of people won't agree with me, but as mentioned on my last Walking Dead review, I feel it's a positive thing the show is encouraging this kind of debate. The fight between Rick and Daryl was almost over as soon as it started, and the two parted ways, still seemingly annoyed with one another. I mean, I don't even think they made eye contact before they headed in opposite directions. Rick started walking into the distance, stating he was going to carry out the last part of his plan. To be honest, I am not really sure what this is, but I think that seeing as he was informed that the kingdom had been defeated, he may be attempting to go see Jadis to convince her to ditch Negan for him, or he may even be going to try to get help from Oceanside. Of course, it might not be either of these options, but that's my theory for now. In closing, the Big Scary You provided a nice break of pace after 4 full throttle episodes. The renewed focus on Negan helps paint the character in a different light and certainly made him more interesting than he was previously. However, I do think there are still some issues in trying to make the audience sympathise with a guy who we all know has committed some truly abhorrent acts. I feel that not all the arguments the showrunners were trying to make for him completely landed. For the most part though, I can certainly now see where Negan is coming from more so than ever, even if I don't always necessarily agree with him. Overall, this installment was another solid episode that helped explore the politics of the Sanctuary, as well as the motives behind Negan's actions, and once again I'm looking forward to what next week has in store for us. So there you have it, my review of the latest episode of The Walking Dead. As always, please let me know your thoughts below, and until next time, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.